I always believed that my life was excellent, even though it was never perfect. Sturdy, dependable Daniel here, and I've been convinced for the past 8 years that I had created a marriage with Sophia, a lady I adored, that was worth preserving. A love greater than anything, and a life that appeared to be unbreakable, at least on the surface. I won't sit here and claim we never argued, but anyone who says otherwise is either dishonest or delusional. Arguments are not a sign of failure. They are simply a natural aspect of being married and having disagreements. The real red flags enter not through slamming doors or raised voices, but through forced smiles and silences. By ignoring little changes in someone's behavior because you don't want to come across as suspicious, you convince yourself that everything is all right. That is exactly what I did. Margaret, my mother-in-law, was never involved. If anything, I believed she was an ally, despite the warning signs. I liked Margaret. We weren't best friends or anything, but we had a mutual understanding. I never saw why some men feared their mother-in-law's presence in their marriage. Margaret wasn't intrusive or obnoxious. She mostly kept her ideas to herself. I regarded her as a kind widow who had done her best to raise Sophia. Margaret wasn't the type to whisper in her daughter's ear, poisoning her thoughts against me. She didn't criticize me behind my back about our finances, or if she did a very good job of concealing it. That's why I didn't hesitate to invite her on the vacation. You may think that seems foolish and inexperienced, but at the time, it felt normal. It wasn't the first time I had done something for Sophia's family, because that's what happens when you love someone. You extend that love to the people they care about. So when I organized a trip to Spain, I saw it as an opportunity for us to get away and try something new. I reasoned, why not include Margaret? She was alone after the death of her husband, and it wasn't like she had a hectic schedule. I thought I was doing a kind deed. I had believed for years that Sophia and I had a solid marriage, one where we built a home together, made decisions together, and supported one another through difficult times. I felt I knew her inside and out, yet I was unaware that Margaret hated me in a version of our life that existed outside of my perception. A version where Sophia was content to let her mother control her feelings toward me. A version where everything I believed was solid was nothing more than a delusion about to burst. And worst of all, I didn't even see it coming. That's what betrayal is, after all. The knife isn't from the opponent you anticipate. It began with a simple idea, a present, a way to break out of the routine. After working so hard, I wanted to do something special for Sophia. We had little time for anything outside of work, eat, sleep, repeat. Spain seemed perfect. The colorful streets of Barcelona, the ancient sights, the Mediterranean sunshine, world-class cuisine, a trip spoken about for years. One we both deserved. I wanted everything to be stress-free for her. Flights, accommodations, meals, excursions, just pure joy. I gave it my all. Without hesitation, I included Margaret. Since her husband passed, Sophia often worried about her. I thought bringing Margaret along would be good for both of them. When I told Sophia, I expected a happy surprise, maybe even tears of gratitude. Instead, she blinked at me as if trying to process something odd. "Bring my mom?" she repeated. I nodded. "It's not a problem. I'll cover most of it. She'll only have to pay for her own personal expenses." She hesitated. It was subtle, but I saw her look away and purse her lips. I ignored it. "That's really kind of you," she eventually said. "I'll ask her." Margaret agreed. I expected gratitude. After all, who gets a free trip to Spain? But something felt off. One night at dinner, Sophia casually mentioned that Margaret had agreed to come. No excitement. Just a flat, "She thinks it'll be fun," stirring her drink absently. I should have questioned it, but I was too busy planning. I booked a beautiful hotel with an ocean view, a private tour of historic sites, and a rooftop dinner at one of Barcelona's best restaurants. When the moment arrived, I stood in the living room, plane tickets in hand, expecting smiles and gratitude. Margaret sat on the couch, her face unreadable. Sophia stood with her arms loosely folded, watching. I handed over the tickets. Sophia took them, examined them, then forced a smile. "Wow, Daniel, you really did all this?" Margaret said nothing, just looked at me, nodded, and muttered, "Thanks." Red flag number 1. It wasn't gratitude. It was obligation, a forced politeness. I brushed it off. Maybe she wasn't expressive. Maybe she just wasn't the excitable type. But the morning of the flight, Margaret was too composed. As we packed, I asked Sophia, "You okay?" She nodded too quickly. Red flag number 2. On the drive to the airport, Margaret barely spoke. She gazed out the window, silent. When I caught her watching me in the mirror, I smiled. She didn't return it. Red flag number 3. The flight was comfortable. I had pre-ordered everything, ensuring plenty of legroom. Margaret barely acknowledged me. She spoke to Sophia, giggled at her phone, even chatted with the flight attendant. But with me? Nothing. Red flag number 4. By the time we landed in Spain, something felt heavy. An invisible weight I couldn't shake. But I ignored it. After all, who would be upset about a free vacation? Our first days in Spain were as perfect as I had imagined, at least on the surface. I had planned everything down to the smallest detail. The weather was perfect. We walked the vibrant streets of Barcelona, inhaling the scent of toasted almonds and seafood. A guitarist strummed in the distance. I wanted this to be the memory we took home, a trip that brought us closer. But Margaret, she wasn't outright rude. She followed the itinerary, ate the food, saw the sights. She even smiled sometimes. But there was a distance, a coldness. And Sophia, she seemed off too. I told myself I was overanalyzing. Then came the rooftop dinner, a perfect setting, candlelight flickering against wine glasses. I reached for Sophia's hand. She smiled faintly, genuinely. But then I glanced at Margaret. Her expression was a grimace. Red flag number 5. She quickly masked it, sipping her wine and forcing a smile. I convinced myself I had imagined it. But then I started noticing the little things. The way she always walked ahead, never beside me. The way she spoke only to Sophia, never to me. The whispers between them that stopped when I looked over. I ignored them all. Until one afternoon in Park Güell, the mosaics glittered in the sun. The city stretched below us. And Margaret, in the sweetest voice, said something to Sophia that made her lips tighten. I wasn't supposed to hear it, but I did, and that was red flag number 6. That was when I realized she had never wanted me there at all. That slip, right? And I swear to you, a slow, icy smile appeared on my face. Ryan was not just my best friend. He also operated a private security company, which is why I phoned him. A logistics firm that specializes in lawful, clever, efficient problem-solving. Exactly what I needed. I sat back against the headboard, my mind already working. Ryan asked, "What do you want me to do?" I laughed. "I want them to walk into something they'll never forget. Expect to return home and resume their normal lives? No more." "I got you," Ryan said, and I hung up the phone, letting out a slow breath. They weren't returning home to comfort. After landing, they were heading directly into trouble. I wasn't going to let them take away my vacation day. I strolled through Barcelona's streets, had a fantastic meal by the water, and since I wasn't defeated, I even bought myself a pricey bottle of Spanish wine. Later, I sat on my hotel's rooftop, watching the sun set beyond the horizon, when my phone rang again. I picked it up. Ryan, a slow, contented smile tugged at the corner of my lips. Ryan chuckled. I wish I could see their expressions right now. I closed my eyes. They should be landing soon, already envisioning it, and when they do, well, I nodded. Let's just say they'll regret every choice they made today. After 3 hours of waiting, my phone lit up again. I let it ring twice before answering in a calm voice. Then, there was mayhem. "Daniel, what did you do?" Her voice was trembling, every word filled with panic. I smirked. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Daniel, the house, it's gone." I grinned as they walked into the trap. "Acting like I'm gone? That's odd." "Don't play games," she snapped. I leaned back, sipping my wine. "You mean the house where I purchased the furniture? The one I paid for?" "Daniel, you lived in luxury for years without questioning the silence of your home. Please, this is insane. Just tell me where our belongings are." I laughed. "When you boarded that plane without me," I said, voice turning cold, "you forfeited your right to speak." Margaret's voice interrupted. "You monster!" "Where do you think we'll sleep?" "Oh, I don't know, Margaret. Maybe you should have considered that before deceiving the man who actually funded everything." Sophia's voice softened. "Daniel, please, not like this." I tilted my head. "But you abandoned me in a foreign land without hesitation. Why should I hesitate now?" Silence. I felt the weight of their regret. They thought they could return home as if nothing had happened. "Daniel, please, we need to talk," Sophia pleaded, her voice cracking. For a brief moment, I almost felt something, but then I remembered. She didn't hesitate to leave me. I inhaled deeply. "No, Sophia. We're done." I hung up, put my phone down, and as I gazed at the Barcelona skyline, I felt no regrets, because some betrayals demand justice. And this was only the beginning.